Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is David from Daveden Web Dev, and on this channel we are always talking about WordPress, about accessibility, dynamic data, about different page builders. So let me know in the comments if you can see me properly, if you can hear me properly, so that we know that everything is going well and I'm not just talking to myself. So I'm just going to wait for a minute to make sure everybody joins the stream and everything works well. And while we're here, let me try and set up my stream so that it works properly. Okay, let's close that. Let me know where you are joining in from. If this is your first time, let me know where are you joining in from, and we'll go from there. So if you don't know, today we're talking about Builderius. We're going a continuation from what we did last week. And last week we just did a broad talk about dynamic data in Builderius, but I didn't really explain much. So today we'll try and go slowly and explain everything that we need to know about dynamic data in Builderius. Okay, so let me make sure everything is working. Yep, select. And oh, okay, because let me just sign in, make sure it's signed in. Okay, yeah, so that's signed in now. Then finally, let's okay, yeah, I think it's all good. So I'm just going to test the chat to make sure the chat is working. Yep, it's working on my end. So yeah, we're good to go now. Okay, yeah, so while we are waiting for people to join in, so what is Builderius? I think that's the first question we need to know or we need to answer, because I've seen a lot of comments, or I've seen one comment where someone asked, what exactly is Builderius? If you don't know, Builderius is a visual development environment. So basically, let's call it a page builder. So Builderius is a page builder for WordPress. And at its core, it's about visual development. So similar to what we have with Elementor, with Bricks, with Breakdance, and all of that, they are all visual tools. So it's also a visual tool. And so we should know that it is a visual development environment. And yeah, I think I see the chat is working. Yeah, Builderius is a very nice tool. And the thing is, Builderius, so at its core, it's about visual development, but then it still gives you access to code. So you can manipulate the code however you want. So if it's the HTML code, at the moment is visual, so they expect you to edit the code, the HTML visually, but you have access to all the HTML tags that you might need, to the HTML attributes, and to the HTML content. So you can add any content, any attribute, any tag, and you can also nest elements however you want. That's for the HTML side of things. For the CSS side of things as well, you have access to visually style classes, IDs, you can style custom attributes, you can style complex selectors. So you have access to virtually anything you can do with like your pure HTML and CSS, but in a visual way. And then you also have access to dynamic data, which is what we are focusing on in today's video. Okay, thank you, Crushing Labs, for joining in. Yeah, so I'm just going to quickly show you a design that we'll be focusing on today. And we're not really focusing on design right now. We're going to be focusing on dynamic data. So I'm going to show you how to pull in dynamic data into your WordPress page builder. So yeah. Oh, hey, hi, thank you for joining in, Tim. Thank you for joining in. Okay. So now let's go ahead and just see an example site, and we'll now go from there. So let me try and switch my screen. Okay, so here we have the example site, and we're not really focusing on the site itself. We're just trying to fill in the site with dynamic data. So for now, you see, I've added a featured properties section, but it has static information. So how do we fill it with dynamic information so that we don't have to be repeating static data? We have a testimonial section. It's also static data. We have a meet the team section, static data. So how do we fill that with dynamic data? We also have our properties, and let's open one of the, oh, okay, sorry, I forgot that this is static data. So let's see if I can open a property. Let's see, under properties, and let's view one of the properties. So yeah, we have a property single page. It had a featured image section, but nothing there yet. It has some tags which you can add. So is it featured? Is it not featured? Is it chain free? And so on. Is it then the title? All of these are just put static data. We'll now fix it by adding dynamic data. And one of the cool things we're going to be testing out as well is that here we have the single post for a property, but then we now have related agents. So each property has an agent that's related to it. So I have a section under for related, the agent that is connected to that property. So we also see how we can connect that together. Then under each agent's single post template, so let's say an agent, you see we have the agent's own information, so their own post meta data, but then underneath we now have the listings. So what listings are the agent having under its portfolio or his portfolio? Okay, so that's one bit. Then finally, I think I put it here in the front page, didn't I? Oh, okay, it's blank. Oh, yeah, I so basically in this section, so browse properties by area. So we're just going to show how to now do a nested query. So basically we have by area. So I've created some categories. So if I go under my page and then I go into something like the properties and then locations, you see that I have some nested data. So I have Southeast, so that's like the region, I think. Then we have Hampshire. Then within Hampshire, we have Petersfield and Winchester. So basically, these are like nesting. This nested. So how can we now show a listing where it will show you the top level elements, and then it also show you the nested elements, and then so basically just keep showing you as many nesting levels as there are. It will just show it. It will show all top level elements first. Then it will show the child elements connected to the top level element and so on. So that is the things that we are trying to test out today. Hi, Max. Thanks for joining in. We are live again. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so let's now start it out with a simple way. So like I mentioned previously, that Builderius is a kind of visual development environment, and it's a tool for building out your WordPress website. How does it do it? It does that by creating templates. So you have templates for maybe all of your listings of your ACF post types, templates for your pages, templates for the entire website, or things like that. You create templates for different locations. Then you now fill that template with dynamic data so that the user now can use the native WordPress way of adding content. So using maybe the Gutenberg editor or whatever editor or the classic editor to add their content into some specific custom fields, and everything will be populated into the Builderius template. So yeah. And then for our custom fields, we can use ACF, SCF, Metabox, Jet Engine, ACPT, and so on. At the moment, with the current version, the most supported one is ACF, followed by Metabox. The others are not yet natively supported, but you can always have workarounds, because I've shown, I don't know if anybody has seen the videos, I will leave links to them, hopefully, in the description, where I tested out ACPT, and I showed that you can actually use ACPT with Builderius, but there is no official native integration yet. Okay, so let's now switch back. And so the first thing is, I've used ACF. You can go to my plugins area. Not sure why it's slow today. Okay, so within the plugins area, the main things I have, the main plugin you just need is Builderius Pro. Then you need a custom fields plugin. So either ACF, Metabox, the Pro version, or the free version, it's fine. Then the others are just additions that I like to always add to my websites. All right, so then with ACF, you go under ACF and the post types. I've created 3 post types. One is agents, properties, and testimonials. So I'm thinking that this is a real estate website primarily in England. So it's a real estate website working in England. Then under the taxonomies, I've created just 2 taxonomies, locations and property types. They're all attached to the properties CPT. Then we have field groups. So for each of those ones, we have some fields. So I've created some fields for the agents to add some extra data to the agent, so that the user can just fill on the back end some predefined data rather than filling so much information. So this is what we have here. So we have things like the job title, which is a text field. We have the email, which is an email field. We have phone, which is a text field, and so on. So there are just different types of fields that ACF provides. And that's how we have for different fields. So the first thing we do is now go ahead and edit the single property template and fill it with information. So I'll go into Builderius and then templates. But before we go to templates, remember, you go to home, and the first thing you need to do is select which starting point you like. Do you prefer to use the standard settings, which has some predefined CSS classes and variables and templates from Builderius, or you want to go with the minimal settings? It's all up to you and how you like to work. There's no right or wrong way. It's just which one is more efficient for you to work with. So you choose that one. So the minimal settings is that it's going to be a blank slate. It's fully blank, literally. So you have no CSS added in the builder. You have no templates created. You have no pages created, nothing. So it's just going to be a blank slate, and then you have to fill all of the information yourself. So you create your own navigation menu, your own site header, your own site footer, everything from scratch. Even the CSS for the site header is not even there. You have to add that yourself. So that is the minimal settings. So use the minimal settings if you already have your own workflow, like you're just going to be copying and pasting into the builder. But for the most part, you would typically use the standard settings. Okay. So now I'll go into my templates, and I've already created a template. So all you have to do to create a template is you just click on Create Template, and you choose the template location that you want. There are several locations. Some things will be updated in the new version that's coming out soon. But yeah, so I've created 4 templates. One of them is the single property, which is what we are editing first. So I'll go ahead and open in Builderius. And the first thing you need to know is that with dynamic data in Builderius, if you are working in a template, all the post and post metadata for that template will be pulled in natively using the WP data variable. So the same way you have with PHP, whereby whenever you open an archive template, you already have a query running in the background from WordPress natively. That's the same way with Builderius. Whenever you open the Builderius template, once you open a template, the Builderius will populate the native query with all of the dynamic data for that query. So in this case, it is a property single post template. So everything has to do with that single post template, like the post title, the post date, the excerpt, post content, all of that information, and even post metadata like your ACF fields that are related to that template will be populated automatically. So you don't have to do any coding or anything. Everything will be done visually. So let's see how we can do it. So for example, let's say we want to get the featured image of this single post template. Just simply click on your image. Then I'm just going to replace that image URL. Click on the dynamic data tag and you search for your featured image and you get to see featured image. You get the alt text, the caption, and the URL. So I can say the file URL, and then you choose which version do you want. So let me just say I want the large version. And our image has been populated correctly. If you want to preview a different post as related to that template, if you click on the top right-hand corner of your builder, you see what you are previewing at the moment. So let's say I want to preview something else. I just click on the one I want to preview. And automatically it will switch to that one. And that's it for the featured image. So that's the same way you now get all of the other things, like your post title. Just replace the static data with your dynamic data. So in this case is the title. And now we get our title. Then same thing with the address. I think this is an ACF field. So I just search for the address. Let me go ahead and preview the actual property. So let's go to properties. So we can see the fields are actually connected to that property. So this is called the 3 Beacon Street. That's this one. Let me just, what's it called? Okay, yeah, that's it. So you can see this is the post. If you click on the meta fields, you can see all of the meta fields are connected. So we have one called display address, we have price, we have bedrooms, we have bathrooms, floor area, and so on. So these are the data connected to it. So we can now just be pulling those data. So for example, we have pulled in the title, then we're now trying to pull in the address. So address, and see it is an ACF field. So you can always search. That's one nice thing about Builderius, that they always give you a search bar for anything you want. So in terms of the dynamic data, there's a search bar. In terms of the HTML tag, there's a search bar. You can always search everywhere. In terms of even the CSS, I think they're adding some search as well to the CSS. At the moment, there is no search here, but you can search for the class name. So that's something you can search for. Okay, so we have our title, and that's how we just keep going with it. So we have the address, we have the price. Let's go ahead and add the price. And we get our price. We can get the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, and the floor area. So that's how simple it is with Builderius. It just, most of the things are visual. Just search for what you want. So bedrooms, so bed. Let's get rid of the 0. Then the next one are the bathrooms. Then the meters squared. So that's the floor area. And we get all of that. You could even take this a step further and say that whenever the value of the, let's say the bathroom is 1, for example, you want it to only show bathroom without an S, so that it sounds normal. You can actually do that. So you can come to your span and you can do something like, I'll just copy these bathrooms. And this way you now start adding expressions, or maybe I will do that later. So let's do that later. We'll talk about expressions later. But for now, this is how you just put all of your dynamic data into your page and just keep doing it. So for, I think this is a repeater field. Yes, so this is a repeater field because there are key features. If I check under the features, I added a repeater for my key features and for my room dimensions. So these are repeaters. So I can always get a repeater field for repeater fields because it's something that is going to be looping like multiple times. So they're going to have something that loops. So whenever we have anything that loops, we use the collection element, which is why I chose to use the collection element here. That is the featured list collection element. And the nice thing about Builderius is that unlike other page builders that will maybe say for the loop, you don't have any control over the loop wrapper. With Builderius, the loop wrapper, you have control over it. You can add attributes to it. You can add whatever HTML tag you want to it, and so on. So you have control over the loop wrapper, the loop template, and anything. So you can add within the template, you can add static data and dynamic data. You have so much control with Builderius. So that's how, let's say with the repeater field, you can use static JSON data. This is what I used first as a demo using static JSON, or you can use dynamic data. To use dynamic data, just click on the data stack, and I'm going to look for my features. That's the key features. And then it will give you a template, and then within that template, you just say, what do you want to return? So in this case, I want to return the title, which is also going to be visual. So just click on the dynamic tag and you see what you want. You have an option for the feature itself, because the repeater field has key features and then features. That's the sub key. So that's the key we're going to use here. You can either use the dynamic tag, or if you are feeling like lucky or you feel like you can do it yourself, all you have to do is just write open curly brackets, 2 curly brackets, and then just write the name of the sub key. So that is features, I think. Or is it feature? Yeah, feature. Okay. And then you get your data. So you can either do it using the dynamic tag, or you choose to do it manually. Either way works just fine. So that is how simple it is. And this is how you just keep going on down the line. So that is for data that is related to the current template. But then when you want to now do things like related posts, or things like on your homepage, you want to show a list of posts from a different post type, so something that's not related to the current template, then the native WP query will not work. You now have to do your own manual query using the dynamic data. You can get the dynamic data. If you look at the bottom of the screen, there is the dynamic data tab. Click on that. It will open the tab for you for dynamic data. There are so many other tabs that will be released. So we have the JavaScript tab. We have dynamic data tab. You have Sense AI. If you want to use AI, we'll talk about that soonish as well. But those are the other things you have. So let's go to the dynamic data tag now. And to start with, we're trying to get a list of related agents to the current property. So we have to now create our own variable for that. And it's quite simple, because this dynamic data is going to be only on the current template. We're not going to be using it everywhere, just the current template. I will switch from the global setting to the template level setting, so that we don't have to be running query everywhere. We just want the query to work on the current template. Then I'll click on variable, so that it open a new variable for me, and you just give it any name you want. So for example, I can say this is something like, let me see what name will be good for it. Like maybe property or agent. Let's see, agent. Let's say agent listing. Hi Shanto, thank you for joining in. If anybody has any questions, please let me know in the comments so that I can answer the questions as we go along, so I don't get anybody lost. But yeah, so within the agent single post template, I can just create one called maybe agent listing, I think is correct. So then you can just use the snippets. There's always snippets. You can just search for related. I think there's one called related. So you can choose related post by taxonomy related. So they have some snippets here, but in this example, we are going to be writing it ourselves just so that you can get it. I know Builderius is supposed to be a visual development environment, but sometimes before they give you the visual tool to use, they first of all already give you the code level elements, because similar to how we have with like the grid system. So before they gave us the version 1 of the grid builder, they already gave us the code level access so that we can style it manually. So this is the first level. They give you the code level, which is very flexible and has no restriction. Then later they will now give you a more visual way of building some of these things. So just note that that's how it is. But for now, sometimes it's better to just use the code level because you now have complete control over everything. So let's see how we can build it out. So first, let's even define what we want. So basically what we want is, let me write it in the comments at the top. We want to have a listing of agents of, okay, let's say listing of posts from the agents CPT that are related to the current property. So if you define it in your head, then it's easy to create the query. But if you cannot even define it in your head, like what exactly is it you're trying to query, then it becomes harder to build it out, basically. So that is it. So now we're basically we're trying to say, okay, we want to list out all of the agents that are related to the current property. But how are they related? So then we can now go back and see how they are related. Let me see, how did I put it? So we have, there should be a field somewhere I created. Okay, relationships here, that's where it is. So we have, it is related by a custom field called listing agent. Yeah, so, and then we also have another one for related properties. So we have two relationship fields, but it's called listing agents. So we now say, okay, related by a custom field called listing agent. So now we have the definition of what the query is. So we can now start building out this query. So to build out this query, first of all, we need to actually know what is the current post, the ID of the current post or the current property, because that's what we're going to be using in our query to query for other things. So first of all, we need to get some of the data from the current post. So to do that, let me take my face off because I remember some people said they were not seeing the screen the other time. So you start with the curly brackets, open and close the curly brackets. Then you now say, okay, I want to get some content from the current post. So you start with, just press Ctrl I or Command I if you're in a Mac. You can see all of the data that you can always pull out from. For now, we're trying to get from the current post. So the name is called post. Then what are we trying to get from the current post? We need the ID from the current post. So I'll search for ID, because that's what we'll be using to identify what the property is specifically, using the ID. Then The next thing we want to do now is, for this current post, we want to now do a query of all agents that are related to the current post. So I'm going to do a post query. Is it posts query? Yeah, post query. So first we have the name called post query. Then we have a list of arguments. So what are the things that identify this post query? So first we need to know the exact post type, because it can be any post type. But we want to now narrow it down. We want to first narrow our post query down to the specific type of query before we now say what we want to return from that query. So first to say what is the post type, you put a colon and then you now tell the post type in quotes, because the post type is a string, or the whatever we're going to return for the post type is a string. And the post type is called agents. If you look at the top of the agent, you see the title is called just agent. I'll copy that. Then go to the next line. And the next thing we need to do is we want to now narrow it down a little bit more. Okay, let's say sometimes we might have posts that are in draft or things like that. So we don't want draft. We really want the published agents. So I can say post status is published. Then what else? Maybe posts per page, because there might be multiple agents related to the current post. I can say posts per page is, I'll just give it a high number, like maybe 10 or something like that. So 10. Although most times it's going to be one agent per property, but maybe they have like co-agents. So I'll say 10. And since it's a number, we don't need quotes. Basically, the way it is in PHP or any of these coding languages, whenever it is like a long text, we use quotation marks. For a string of text, if it's a number, we just write the number without any quotes. If it is an array, we use a square bracket to enclose an array, and so on. So they have different notations, which is common across different coding languages. Okay, so that's the post per page. Then something we might want again is maybe we want to order by some other thing. So you just keep doing it. And I think I have, let me pull up the document that can help you to figure out the post query. I think I wrote it down somewhere. I'm just going to pull it up. And I'll put it in the chat as well. So for post queries, you can just read this document. Basically, these are all the parameters that I'm using in the query. So we have things like the author, so you can read, so I can use this to narrow down what your query is about. So this is all the inputs you're going to be putting, or the arguments you're going to put into your post query to narrow the query down. So you can read all of them well. So for now, I'm showing you the manual way of doing it. Then I'll show you the easy way of doing it with AI. Since AI can just do all these things in a couple of minutes, but first we do it manually. We'll see how to do it manually. So basically, you can just read anytime anything you're trying to use to narrow down to make the query more specific. You come into this document, read it, read the description, the short description, and what type of data it requires. Is it an array? Is it a single number? Is it like a list of IDs? Is it comma separated numbers? Everything is written in this document, because you can see they tell you the type of value. It's an integer or a boolean. This one is a string or an array of strings. So you can just read the document. It shows you everything you need. The last thing we'll now do is, if we go back to the page, let me take my face off. So we've started with the beginning, that we are querying a list of posts from the agent CPT, then which is related to the current post. That means we need to now show how it's related to the current post. It is related by a custom field called listing agent. So to do this custom field, we have what we call a meta query. So that's what we'll use next, called the meta query. Let me see if I can pull up the meta query so we can see it easily as well. Did I write it down? No. Let me see if I can just search for it. Meta query. So so basically we just define the key, the meta key, and so basically it's a meta query. Where is it? Yeah, meta query. That's it. So meta query. This is what we need to define a meta query, an associative array of arguments that we use to basically streamline our query based on a custom field. Okay. So now we can come back down, and I'll now go down to the next line and say we are using a meta. There's always going to be autocomplete, so you can just search for meta query. And within the meta query, there are two things you can choose, either an array or how it is related. So we'll start with the array. And within the array, you can see all the keys that are available within the array. So the first thing we'll need is, I think it will be the key. So what is the key itself? The key is listing agent. But let's confirm how it is written. So I'll go to ACF, field groups, and to my properties. Then look for the listing agent. The key is listing underscore agent. So that's the key. Then the other thing we can do is we can say the type if we want. I think the type will be, is it an array or is it, the type is going to be a number, I think. But yeah, that's if you want to do it, because we are comparing the listing agent. I think it returns the relation. Yeah, usually relationship fields return IDs or numbers. So I'll just leave it at that and then say Control I. We want to return the value, and the value is basically going to now reference the ID of the current post. So we're just going to say ID. But whenever we're trying to reference another value from the query, we use quotes first, then we use two curly brackets, and then we now reference the name. So that's ID. And that's basically the first query completed. Now we have our input of our arguments for the query. We don't need to say what do we want to return from the query. So this is we've talked about the input. Now what is the output? So the output are things like the post title for the agent name. You can just press Control I. You can see everything that you can return. So let's say, okay, we're going to return a list of posts from the query. So posts first. And then within those list of posts, we now return the title. That's post title. Then we may want to return the featured image. Within the featured image, what we will need mostly are the file URL. We also need the alt text and any other thing like maybe the width and the height, so on. But let's see if the query is actually working. So I'm just going to do get data. So I'll say get data now. And it broke. So what broke? Okay, yeah, so something is off here. Post type is not defined. What did I write wrong? Oh, sorry, I wrote PSOT instead of POST. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tim, for showing me. Because and that's one thing about Builderius as well. Builderius will always give you that underline. Whenever the key is wrong, it will give you the underline. So let's get data now. And you can see it's returning the data. It's returning. Oh no, it's not returning it yet. So, okay, the ID is returned correctly, 83. Then let's see now, what else did I make a mistake on? So the post type was agent, the post status, publish, then the meta query. I think that is, or did I make any mistake? Oh yeah, I think. Oh yeah, I put the key, I put the value, but I didn't say how it should compare the key, the value. It's supposed to have a compare. Yeah, that's the last thing. The compare within the meta query. Let's see if I can show it up here. So within the compare, we have the key. Then we have the compare basically. So is it like? Is it equal to? Is it not equal to? So this is the last thing I forgot to add. It's also, so that's the compare. So I think we're going to compare it to be like. So we use like, because usually the relationship field is an array. So we're just going to use like because it's going to be part of the array. So we're just, rather than saying equal to, it will not work. We're going to say like. So now let's see. Get data. No, still not working. What did I break? Let me make sure that everything is working. This is the array, the key, the value. Did I type something wrong again? Listing agent, correct. Yeah. Compare like. Yeah. What else? Now this is interesting. Oh. Oh wait. It's supposed to be, yeah. This is under the, or am I doing an error? No, I don't think so. It should be like this. Or wait. Oh no, wait. Oh wait. I think sorry, I think I am the one making a mistake. Let's just cut all of these out and start again. Let's see if oh yeah. Oh yeah, there's already this. Okay. Oh yeah. Sorry, my bad. I forgot that we already have this relationship value, right? So I think I can just say the post, then ACF relationship value, then I'll give it the name of the value is listing underscore agent, I think. And then, so I should have prepared better before going into the video. So this is my fault. I think there is an ACF relationship field already, so there's not all of that thing. I didn't really need it. So let's say I want to get the post title. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I forgot that Builderius already has this ACF relationship value meta key, or the helper data. So we can just use this ACF relationship value, and it will return all of the fields related to the post automatically. So we don't need to do all of that long process that I did. There's already, because if it was MetaBox or the others, you would have had to do what I did. But ACF does all of these things nicely. So there's already a function that we can use, so that you can now get the title. We can get other things like the permalink, maybe. What else do we need? We need the title. We need the link for the post to visit their profile. We need their featured image. And within the featured image, I want the alt text and the file URL. Then what else? I will also still test out the other one using the query later, but for ACF relationship fields, we have this handy tool that we can just use called ACF underscore relationship underscore value. Then let's see if that gets data. Yeah, it's getting data. Then for any ACF field, there's also another one called ACF value. And so the first one we want to get is the job title. So for within the, not the property, it's going to be field groups for agents. So job title is called job title, or job underscore title. If I get data, it gets the data. So this is how you just keep getting all of the data that you want. But the one thing you need to now watch out for is that with Builderius or with the GraphQL query, you can't have two information that have the same key, because this is a key called ACF value. If I try to get another data and use the same ACF value, and the second name is called email, or no, what do we need here? We only need the name, we need the job title, yeah, phone and email. Okay, yeah, so the email, if I try to paste that in and get data, you see that it will break. The reason why it breaks is because you can see they have underlines that there are two that have the same name, so it's not allowed. So we have what we call aliases that we can input. So for example, the job title, I can now use an alias called job underscore title with a colon. So now instead of the name being ACF value, the name will now be called job title. And as you can see, the red underline is gone. So I'll do the same thing for the second one. Instead of it being called ACF value, let's just first get data. You see that the key is called ACF value. Instead of that, we need a nicer name. So I'll now use a new name called email and get data. You see, we get our email. Then the other thing is the phone, copy. Same thing, phone, colon, ACF value, and the name is phone. Get data, and it is getting the data. Then what else do we may need? Oh, sorry. See how my eyes are not. Meant to write phone. I wrote photo. Yeah, so that's the phone number. Yeah, okay, and so on. So you can just get all of those data. That's how you just keep getting the data for the related post, and you'll notice that it shows with a square bracket. So with the post ACF relationship value has a square bracket. That means it's an array. Like I mentioned, that relationship fields always return an array of posts, or an array of the related posts. So now, if we want to now get that data into this listing, we would have to, since it's an array, we'd have to use a collection element. So for that, you can you notice that I put in a collection element, which let's just do another new one. So I'll just add in a new one. To add a collection element, let's click on the section. I'll click on elements and search for collection. This is the collection element. Within that collection element, it will come automatically with a template element. Then we now have to put in what is the query or the input of the loop we're trying to get. So now the name of the loop will be called agent underscore listing. So let's just search for that within the data source. Let me close dynamic data. So now within this data source of the collection element, you just search for dynamic tag, and you see the agent listing. So that's the agent. No, let me just do it with something easier. Oh, where is it? It should have shown up. Let me get data again, and so that's agent listing, and the query is ACF. Okay, let me give it a nicer name so that it's easy to see, to locate. So that will be listing underscore agents colon. So I'm just replacing this name called ACF underscore relationship underscore value with the tag called listing underscore agent, so that we'll be sure that we're getting the right data. So under the collection data source, click on the dynamic tag, and we now search for listing agents. So you can see agent underscore listing dot that dot that. So that's the one we need. and we have gotten our data. So now we can now start putting in the information in our template. But let me just do it with the one we already have, the collection we already have. So I'll use this collection we have, which is the previous collection element, and I'll put the same data. Agent listing, so that is agent underscore listing. And James Croft. So now you can see everything is working, because if you want the post title, you just put the dynamic tag, get the sub key, which in the first one was title. That was post title. Then we have for the next one is job title, and so on. So you see, you just keep putting the data. So the image, you look for the featured image, dynamic tag, featured image, file URL, get the alt text, same thing, featured image, alt text. So these are all information from the loop. Oh, hey, Jimmy, thank you for joining in the webinar. I don't know if you people have seen his video. He did an interview with Elvis today. I'll leave a link to it in the description and the comments. So let's copy that and I'll paste it in the chat. You can go ahead and check it out after the stream. And yeah, so basically this is how you can just get dynamic data from anywhere. So this is listing of agents, and that's it. So that's our different ones you can do. So now let's go ahead and even see some more complex ones. So we'll go into a demo page now so that we can see complex dynamic data. Demo page. And so now we have a blank page, a blank demo page. So let's say, for example, we want to show the listing of all of our properties. We can just do in our collection, or in our main tag, I'll add a new section. Within the section, we'll add a collection element. And now I'll say I want to get the list of all, let's say, properties on the website. So it's very simple. You go to your dynamic, because this is a blank page, not a single post template or an archive template or anything like that. It's a blank page. So you go into your dynamic data again, and you have to create a new data variable. So you click a data variable and you write the name. So let's say property. So this is how you get the property. And since you're trying to query, right now it's not from the current post, we're just trying to query properties that are on another post type. So all you just do directly posts query, and then you start giving the arguments. Like I mentioned, you can read this WP query page and get it from there, or if you already know what you want, just press Ctrl+I. It will show you all of the keys that are valid. So we can have the post type, and the post type will be property, I think. Then post per page will be, let's say, 5 or 6. We can say something like what else? You can add as many queries as you want. Then we've defined the input. So now we have to define the output. We're trying to output the list of posts. So we look for Ctrl+I. You can see there's posts there. And what do we want to return from those posts? We want to return things like their post title. So I'll search for title. You want to return their permalink. Search for permalink. You want to return maybe the featured image. You search for featured image. You want to return anything. So you just keep adding what you want to return. So I can now say I want to return the file URL of this, as well as the alt text. And if you just do get data, it will list out all of the posts, or the 5 posts that are related to property, or that are from the properties CPT. So this is how you can get information. And yeah, let me make another correction. What I was showing you previously, like the last one, that whole long information is for when you're trying to get the list of related posts, but not in the current template. Builderius also has the WP native query for relationship fields. I missed that out because I was testing it on a regular page initially before the live stream. That's why everything was different. But let me show you what I mean. If you go back to this single property, you actually don't need to create a data variable, I believe. I believe there's already one there. Let's see. Listing agent. Was it the right one? Okay, yeah. Let me just save first and refresh. So under... Oh, did I delete it? What just happened? Okay, so like this. There's actually already... No, not this one. The other one. Oh, I deleted it. Interesting. So there is already a native WP query, which I missed out, called, you can see the ACF field listing agent, which is a WP query. So natively, Builderius already has the native one. You don't need to create custom one if you are on the single post template. But if you're on a demo page that's not the template itself, then you would need to have done that, the dynamic data query that I created. That's just something for you to know. So apologies. I think I am mixing so many things up. But yeah, so let's go back to our demo page. And why is everything keeps disappearing? Oh, I didn't save when I switched. So I didn't save. Always remember to save before you switch. I didn't save. But yeah, let's do it again. I've created my dynamic data called property. And it's returning a list of properties. So now I can go into my collection element and return that property because it's already an array. If you go to dynamic data, like I mentioned, if you see a square bracket, it means it's an array. So if you look at this posts, you see the post has a square bracket. That means it's starting an array, and it's an array of objects. So you can see it's a square bracket. That's an array. So immediately there's an array, the Builderius dynamic data will pick it up for your collection elements. So if I go back and then I go into the collection element, dynamic data, and you would see the new one that I created called post query because I didn't give it any name, and just search for that. Then within the template, you cannot return any value. So for example, let's say the title. So I'll just use a heading field and I'll return the post title is returning the title of all of the properties and so on. So this is how you create dynamic data tags for the collection element. So the next one, please stop me at any time to ask me any questions so that I'm not losing anybody. But the one I'm going to be trying to solve right now is the question that I think Tim asked on the Builderius group, and that is, you have a set of categories, and those categories have a nested listing. So they are nested. How do we now return the nesting and still retain your nesting levels so that it doesn't start showing maybe all the categories? You want to show, first of all, the parent categories, then the parents should have children categories underneath them, then those children should have their grandchildren categories underneath them, and so on in that list. And you want it to be dynamic. You don't want to be doing it statically. So how do you do that? That's what we're focusing on. So to do that, I'm going to be staying on this demo page. I'll create a new section and I will go into the dynamic data. I'll create a new variable. I'll call this one maybe category nesting. And so for context, if I go into my properties and locations, you see we have nesting. So we want to be able to show on the front end that it will show maybe southeast, then under southeast it will show you maybe dash Hampshire, then double dash. So the same way you see it here, we want to now return that on the front end. So how do we do that? So we'll go into our post, then where are we getting the data from? We're getting the data from the list of the taxonomy terms called locations. It's not related in any way to the current page that we're on. Is a separate taxonomy term. So for that, we're going to be using a terms query. So I'll search for terms query. Then we now have to give it a set of arguments. So what are we trying to return? We're trying to return all of our all of our locations. So what is the taxonomy name? That's the first thing we need to figure out. The taxonomy name is going to be called location. You can get it easily by going over to your ACF field and you click on taxonomies. Then you have this location taxonomy. Let me go ahead and open it up. And I'll copy the key called location. I'll paste that in. It's a string, so I have to use double quotes and paste it in there. So that's the taxonomy name. Then the next thing we may want to get is what else? We need to get, so we have the taxonomy name. Then what else? Let's see what else we can get. We have so all of the other things here, we don't really need them. So the other thing we will need now is we want to start from somewhere. We want to start from the one that is the top level. So how do we get the top level elements? The top level elements, we have what we call a parent of 0. So we have to now look for parent of 0. That will now give you a list of, I need to return something. So let's just say this is the first set of arguments that we have. We will add extra later, but let's say this is the first set. One other thing we might want to do is this last one called hide empty to be false. We want it to show all of the tags. For context, I'll also leave a link to it. There's a WP terms query documentation. I'll leave a link to it in the description and in the comments. But first, this is the main things we need. We need a taxonomy. We need the parent should be 0. That we're trying to get the list of the top level elements. Then we need to show the hide empty should be false. Let me get rid of my face on the screen. Okay, so those are the main ones. Then what are we trying to return? We're trying to return a list of terms. So I'll search for Control I, and you see terms. And then within this list of terms, what are we trying to return? We're trying to return maybe just the title for now. So I'll search for, it's name. It's called name. So I'll do get data. And now you can see it's returning just 2 elements. It's returning, if I had removed this parent of 0 and this hide empty, or let's just remove the parent of 0 and do get data, it will return all of the elements as a flat list. But this is not what we want. We want to have them as a nested list, not a flat list. So that's why we're having this whole thing. So this is a flat list. So that's why we now start with a parent of 0. So now it gives us a flat list of just the top level elements. Then the next thing we'll do is we can now say within this term, we've gotten the name. We now have to do a nested query for the next item. So what we have returned now is, first we have returned the top level elements. So now within this top level element, we now want to return the child element within that. So we come within the output after the name. We now do another query again of terms. So basically, just keep doing query of terms and so on. But to do that, we now say children. That's how we do the query of child terms, because we're already in a terms query. To get the children of that term, we just use this one called children. And then within this one called children, it's the same thing. We just want the name. So name. And if I do get data, you see now it will tell us the name of the child, the children. Then within this one again, if I want to do, if I know the nesting amount manually, I can do it manually. Just come again into this name and say children again. And we want to get the name. Get data. And to tell us the children of that one. So if you look at this list, you can compare it. We have Southeast, Hampshire, then Petersfield and Winchester. If you go into our category, we see the same thing. Southeast, Hampshire, Petersfield, and Winchester. So we've gotten our nesting. If we know the exact nesting ourselves. But what if we don't know the exact nesting? How do we now do that? Well, first, let's just output this data so that we know that there's an output. So I'll come under my collection element. And no, is it an array? Let's see. Yes, an array, yeah. So collection element, get the data source of my terms query. And within the template, I'll add maybe a heading or a paragraph text just to return the title, which is the name. And you can see first we have the Southeast, or maybe I should make it a list instead. So rather than just a title, let me make it a list. So a UL, and then this will be an LI. So we have the top level list. Within there, I can now add a sub collection element and return the next query. So sub collection. And I'll now get the query of the sub collection, which is going to be our children. And I'll get the data, which is just the paragraph, and do a name again. So I'm showing you first of all the static way to do it, because this is when you already know how many levels of nesting that you have. So this is the static way. Get the name and it will return that name. So let me make that sub collection element another UL, and the paragraph to be an LI. Then I'll do the third level of nesting. So let me just duplicate. So it's basically the same thing. Within the LI again, I'll put a sub collection and make that a UL. And within the template, I'll add maybe an LI or something. Yeah. LI. And get the name. Have I chosen the query? No, sorry, I've not chosen the query yet. The query is children. So you can see we have, this is the manual way to get our nesting. So we get our nesting of manually. We've gotten the nesting. Just keep adding sub collection elements and templates, sub collection element templates, and this is the first method. But like I said, this is a static way of doing it. Now let's see how we can modify this a little bit to make it more dynamic, so that we just define everything once and everything will be done automatically. So let me go back to my dynamic data, and you see how we have a repetition here of children name, and so on. So the moment you see that we keep repeating the exact or the same thing multiple times, we can replace that repetition with what we call a recursive template. So to do a recursive template, we'll go to first of all, we delete this whole children because it's what is going to be repeating. Then we go to this first children, that is going to be like our template. We'll open regular brackets, and if I press Ctrl I, you see everything we can do within this children. We now want to do, not argument. So we need we're going to add, what do we call them? I forget. We use the @ symbol. Sorry, what have I done? You use the @ symbol. Is that @? Yeah, @recursive. That's what we need. We are adding a new directive, and then we now choose what is the depth we want. So we want the depth to be about maybe 3. And you notice that if I just do get data, it will do the exact thing that we already have before. Nothing should change. Why did it change? It shouldn't change. Recursive depth of 3. Did I make any mistake? I don't think so. This thing keeps disgracing me. It should just automatically do it, or did I make any? Wait, recursive, yeah, just children, because already in the terms query, and we're just repeating this template, should just automatically work. Let's see. Let's try again. Okay, so I made a mistake somewhere. So this is children. Get data. So yeah, I broke something. Oh, okay, yeah, that's why I'm missing a curly bracket somewhere. I added an extra bracket. I should always remember to check for any red lines. Yeah, so that's why it's working now. Yeah, I when I was deleting, I deleted. I forgot to delete an extra curly bracket. But yeah, you can see now that the nesting is the same. So it's giving us the thing. So we have children, recursive. Yeah, name children. The children has the name of Petersfield. Yeah, and then that. So it just keeps giving until the depth of 3. But yeah, basically it's the same thing coming back. And you can see if we go back to our query, nothing breaks. The query still remains, or the output still remains the same. So the same way we use recursive in the dynamic data, we can also do this same thing within the output template. So instead of having to constantly repeat the sub-collection element templates, we can now replace this. Let's delete this UL. So we can now replace the template with a recursive template. So I'll search for template, and we choose the recursive template with the li. So the only thing we're replacing here is the template. Rather than a template, we're now using a recursive template. And yeah, it's supposed to be li here. And let me delete this template. Right, so that's first level template, then the UL, then the li, then the recursive template. Yeah, I think, yeah, let's just test it out first. So this recursive template, we now give it a name of it should repeat the first template. So the first template, we have to give that first template a name. So let's say test. Then the recursive template will take on that name. And yeah, that's it. So we have the UL template li. Okay, I delete this, remove, and should be okay now. So that's the UL, a template. That's the template we're just going to be constantly repeating, which has an li. And yeah, so let's save and see on the front end. Yep, and you can see it's the same thing. So Southeast, Hampshire, Petersfield, Winchester. So it works. And we have our recursive template. Sometimes it doesn't show properly in the builder whenever you use recursive template. So you can ignore the recursive template in the builder, but on the front end, it should work. It was our demo page. Yeah, so that's where we have it. Now it's showing well. And yeah, basically, this is how we will test it out. I know I may have lost some people, but yeah, this is basically how the whole thing worked with Builderius. Builderius has all the everything you need to work with your query. It might look complex, but they give you two things. I know I missed out, even though I was seeing it, I was still missing it out. Basically, whenever you make an error, it will show you a red underline to show you that, okay, whatever you're querying has an error. There'll be a red underline. You just go ahead and fix that error. Then the other thing is that you just have to visually or just mentally think about what you're trying to query. What are you trying to query? Once you can think about it in your head, you'll be able to come out with the solution. And yeah, and then the final thing is you have your AI to help you out. So let's see how AI can build out the same listing that we had before in an easy way, and then we can just go in and make some changes. So I'll switch back my screen, and I have Sense AI connected. So all you have to do is just open your Sense AI. Let's go ahead and let me use Claude. And we'll do the same thing. We're going to say it should show the nested listing of our categories. So I'll say something like, let me see, a section. Let me remove my current section so that let's remove this UL. Okay. Can you help me? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, okay. Yeah, I just got a question. Before we continue, let's solve that question. So it says, can the nested terms be related to the properties? Yes, you can do everything. So let me do that test out. Let's test that out now. So I'll go under my properties template. Let me just open it directly. So let's go to the, wait, it should be, okay, oh yeah, let's go to the demo page. And I'm going to now do a properties listing, and within that properties listing, we now do a list of the locations that shows that nesting within the properties listing. So we're going to do a more complex one now. So let's go to a new section. A new section. And this one is going to be, we want to show a listing of all of our properties, but then within that list of the properties, we want to now show the list of terms that are related to the properties, but still having this nesting solution. So let's see how we can do it. So I'll go to my collection element to start the list of properties. But since we're not in the properties single template, we now have to create a dynamic or a custom data variable. So I'll go under dynamic data and we'll create a new listing. Now this will be we can just use the old list, the old one. Let's just use that. This property listing. So we'll just continue from this property listing now. First, we're only returning the list of properties. Now within this list of properties, we now want to add the terms query into it. So I'll go to the property dynamic data variable. Then within the posts, I'll add an ID, because now I want to show terms that are related to the current post. So I have to get the ID of the current post. And then I'll now do my terms query here. So basically exactly the same thing that we had there before. I can, in fact, I can just copy that terms query. This terms query, you can just copy it and paste it in the property query. And if all is well, it should just automatically, oh no, I have to say that the terms must be, what's it called? They must be connected to the current property. So they have to do another, where is it? In the list of arguments, I think there's something called object IDs. And within these object IDs, what you are just passing in these object IDs is how is the terms query related to, what object is it related to? It's related to the current post. And we've already gotten the ID of the current post. So I'm just going to feed that ID here. And do get data. And let's see. Okay, no, you didn't get it. So let's see. Did I make any mistake? Yeah, it's ID. Not inside of the terms query. Yeah, so it's in the post. And then we're getting the object IDs should be the ID. That should be it. No. Let me figure it out. Yeah, location. Taxonomy is location. Yeah, parent is 0. Hide empty false. Object IDs. Let me just confirm by opening the terms query listing page. Let me get the URL terms query. So for the terms query, the things we need are taxonomy, the object IDs, which is the object ID or array of object IDs will be limited to terms associated to these objects. Okay, so yeah. So we just need the taxonomy, the object IDs, and that's about it. And hide empty. So that should work. Unless no, none of them are showing anything. Okay, so I'm just going to try to figure it out. So let's start from the beginning. I'll open the let's build out the entire query from beginning. So first we're trying to get a list of our posts, which are properties. So I would say posts query, and the post type is property. The post status is publish. The posts per page is about maybe 12 if they're up to that. Then I want to return the list of posts, and within that list of posts I want to return the ID. I want to return the post title. No, wrong. I want to return the post title, the permalink, and as well as want to return a list of terms. What is broken again? So this is where I keep forgetting the wrong, right? So post query, post type, property. My spelling is just so bad. Yeah. Okay. So we've gotten the first one, the list of posts. Then the next thing is we want to now define a list of terms from these posts. Yeah. So I'll say terms query, and the argument or the taxonomy should be location, this is taxonomy. Then the next thing we're checking out for is the object IDs. Yeah, object IDs should be, or let me just not put the object ID so I'll know if it's actually working. Then hide empty should be false, just to make sure that everything is working well. Then I'm going to return the list of terms, and I just want to return the title or the name of the term. Get data. Okay, so first we know that the terms query is working. So now we just want to restrict this terms query to only the one that have a parent of 0, so that we are getting the top level parent. Parent of 0. Get data. Okay, that is working. Then finally, we want to now restrict it to only the current property. So now I'll now say object IDs should be in quotation marks, double curly brackets, ID. Get data. So that's where the problem is. It's not returning the ID for some reason, but yeah, it's not getting the ID. Why? Object IDs. Yeah, this is ID. It's not. Okay, so it's outside of the query. So how do we get it into the how do we do this normally? Because we're already in a terms query, so everything that's returning in the terms query is things that are related to the term. How do we now pass in the post ID into the terms query? Okay, let's see. Oh, expression results. Let's see. Let's try that. Okay, now this is actually confusing. So let's now rely on AI to do this. Let's see what the AI will come up with. Get data. So the only thing missing now is this object IDs that's not working for us. I think every other thing will work if I put in the entire query into it. So let's go back to the other data, and then I feed it everything in here, paste, and yeah, we have our terms query, location. If I do a get data, it should work. So the only thing left is that object ID. So let's see if Sense AI can help us out. So I'm just going to go back and Sense AI. So this is where AI can come in handy. So the name of is called category nesting. No, sorry, it's called property. So in our property that custom data variable, I'm trying to limit the terms query to the current property in the post query. But how do I do that? Can you update the query to work? I don't know. My brain has. Let's see what it comes up with. I think the limitation is that. So what's happening for us is that, unfortunately, the ID is outside of the terms query, so it's not. I'm not able to pull it into the terms query for some reason. I'm not sure why, but that is basically from the WP terms query documentation. It's supposed to just work if I feed in. Is this the terms query? Yeah, term query. If I feed in the object IDs, which is just the integer of the object ID of the current post, it should just work automatically. I don't know why it's not working. So let's see what Sensei has come up with. It is still trying it out. It's now trying to read the GraphQL schema to see. Oh, wait. Okay, found it. The property data variables nesting terms query is the problem. Right now, it queries all location terms, okay? Passing the post object IDs, yeah, which is what I think I did. Okay, so it's going to update the variable. Okay. One thing, what confirming for the demo, do you want each property to show just its assigned town? Yeah. Okay, so yeah. Let's see. Let's go back and see the dynamic data if that's added it. Okay, so object ID, that's what I did, right? Or did I? Or am I dreaming? Ah, okay. It got rid of the parent equal to 0. I think that's where the problem was. Yeah. The parent equal to 0 was the problem. It couldn't have the parent equal to 0 as well as, because yeah, now I get where the problem was. So the problem was that I was saying object IDs of ID, which is correct, but I was now saying the parent of 0. But unfortunately, each of those terms, if you can see, whenever the parent of 0, the count is 0. So it was only on the nested element. That's the only one that had the terms were connected to. So now what I have to now do is use, if you look at what the Sense AI said, it said that I need to use, oh, it has broken up a little bit. Let me refresh. Let me just save and refresh. It says that I need to add something extra. Dynamic data, sorry, Sense AI. It says I need to use, what's it called? I need to use this get ancestors. That's what I need to do. So I'll say, okay, go ahead and because so basically when I use get ancestors, it will now allow me to be able to return the ancestors, even though those ancestors are not directly connected to the property. So yeah, this is where I made a mistake. So it will fix it for me now. For context, I think if I go to this and search for get, and is it here? No. Get ancestors for WordPress function. So this is the function name called get ancestors. And what it does is it will get an array of ancestor IDs for any given object. So when you get the object, it will always return all of the ancestors for that object to you. So let's just see what the query is, and then we use it. So to be fair, you can just use the AI to solve most of the problem, which is what I wanted to mention previously, that since AI is very knowledgeable about Builderius dynamic data, so all of these mistakes that you say I was making, with Sense AI, it will have done it correctly from the start. It wouldn't have been making all of those mistakes, and it will even tell you some ways to fix some things. If there are some issues, it will tell you to fix it. So all of these, even the recursive data, it will have automatically known how to do the recursive data for you. So this is why I would say you can like use AI for these kinds of things. You can use AI for this kind of complex data, dynamic data things, because Builderius, the team, they've worked on it very well. There will still be some improvements soon in the next update, but they've worked on it very well. That the Sense AI understands Builderius. It understands how Builderius functions and thinks. And I think it is about to be completed. Okay. It even explains everything for me, how it works. Yeah. Yeah, you can use it in GraphQL. I'll show you the dynamic data. I think it have already updated it for us. So if I go back to my templates and property, you see that now it has that get ancestors. Unfortunately, I forgot to mention that the get ancestors function is not native in Builderius, but Builderius has a handy function called the PHP function output, which is what we have to use. So we have to now use this for each ancestor. We now have to say PHP function output. Then the function is called get ancestors. Then we have to now feed it this term ID from our terms query. So the term ID, then we feed the taxonomy is called location, and this is the function here. We feed it three things. So you feed it the object ID, which is the term ID. You feed it what type of object is this. The object type is the location, and then you feed it what type of resource. It's a taxonomy. So that is the three things. You can see the object type. It accepts the post type or the taxonomy name. Then the resource type accepts, is it going to be a post type or a taxonomy? So those are the three functions. It's not native to Builderius, which is why I forgot about it. But yeah, this is the function you need. So you need the term query. Then within that term query, you now need to have the term. The term is what the output is. But then you have to now say you want to get the ancestors. So to get the ancestors, you use this function called get ancestors, then the arguments and all of that. Then okay, so yeah, I think it's best to just use the AI to get this one, because I wouldn't even have known it myself. But yeah, it basically gives us the terms. Why is it saying breadcrumb? Oh, I think it's trying to overdo it for us. It's giving us a breadcrumb function. But yeah, so let's see if I can replicate this terms query. So basically all we just need is the get ancestors function. So I'll try and replicate it now and see if that works. I'll open a new variable and say property 2. After this live stream, I will do a more streamlined video so that it shows all of this rather than showing all of my ramblings and all of my mistakes. I'll show a better video showing how to get the terms query, but then let's try and do it ourselves. Property 2. So the first thing is we want to get the posts query, and what we're trying to return are the post type of property, then the posts per page, let's say 10. The post status is, let's say, publish. Then we're trying to return our list of posts, and within those lists of posts, we want the title, we want the ID, important, and we want maybe the permalink. I just want something simple. Then we also want our list of terms, so I can now come in here and do the terms query. And the arguments, first is the taxonomy of location. Then we need the hide empty of false. Then we need, what else do we need? We might need the object IDs of, put in quotes, and double curly brackets, the ID. Oh, wait a minute. What is this one? Oh yeah, that's the terms query. Yeah, okay. Sorry. Then what for the terms query? What am I trying to return? This is the list of arguments. What am I trying to return? I'm trying to return a list of terms. And within that list of terms, I just want to return the name of the term. Name, if I can spell right, of the term. So get data. So this is the first step. Now the second step is we want to now return the categories in order. So I will go over to, where was that? I think let me open it up in a different page so that I can be following it well. Okay, so I want to get the get parent, I think. How did you call it? You said we need to do a get ancestors, basically. Get ancestors. Yeah, so after the, and then we also need the ID, term ID, and then get ancestors. So we need the name, we need the ID, and we need to get the ancestors of that term. So the term ID, and we need to get the ancestors. But to get the ancestors, there's no function yet in Builderius. I think they will add that later. So we have to now use the PHP function output. So I'll say PHP function output. The name is called get ancestors. And that's the function name. Then the arguments within the function are first. Arguments are, the first argument is the term ID, the location, and the term ID. So this is the arguments here. Let me open it in a new tab so it's easy to see the function in a new tab, the term ID in a new tab. Yeah. Okay. So the arguments, the first argument is the ID, which we already have here called term ID. So we're just going to reference that term ID. So I'll put the curly brackets in quotation marks, curly brackets, term underscore ID. Then the second argument is the taxonomy name, which is called location, and it is a taxonomy. So let's see what it returns. So now it just returns the list of IDs for us. Then we need another function, I think, called what do we need? We need another function to now return because these are just the IDs. So we need a function that will return the name. Okay, so let me try and remember. It says we need a function. So this is the ancestor, the term ID. So it returns the entire list, but now we need to get. Okay, let's see. Let me figure it out. So I want to try and get the same array of this. So let's let me figure it out. So term ID for the ancestors. Then let's see. So okay, what else can we use? Let me see. Let me think about it. So because this is returning the IDs of 21 and 20. I think those are these are the children, yeah? This will be the children of the current term. So I think I just need to write children. So this will be the ancestors. Let me just name it so that I don't forget. So this will be the ancestors. Then I want to return the children now. So this will be children. And I need the name. And the term ID. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. I think I'm going term ID. But I think for the first one, I need to now limit it to be only the first ancestor. So I'm still trying to figure it out. What's the best solution, because it's returning just the IDs. Okay, if I say term ID and name, get data, because I need to limit the children to show based on the current. Yeah, I'll have to figure this out at some point, and I'll do a video about it to show the children that are related, because it's children that are related to the current post, but in the term in this format of the parent-child relationship. So yeah, I think there should be a video once I figure it out, or let me just keep trying. I'll try and figure it out now. You all can hang on and ask any questions. I'll try to answer those questions while we're here, while I keep trying to figure out this conundrum, because basically I want to show the post title or like the property name, and then within the property name I want to show the list of the parent property and its child property that are related to the current property. So I will keep working on it now, and then we'll see the output. But yeah, let me see. I get data, so I can get the ancestors, which are 21 and 20. Let me make sure I understand what's going on. So 22 is the current term. Then we have 21 and 20. Okay. So we have yeah, definitely. I'll do a cleaned up video once I figure everything out correctly. So we have 21 and 22. So it shows the ancestors as 21 and 20. So yeah, that's correct. So we have the child 21 and 20, which are the ancestors going in the backward order. Then for the other one, it will be 18, with the ancestors being 17 and 16. Okay. So let me confirm. So we have 17 and 16 as the ancestors for 18. We have 20 and 21 as the ancestors. Yeah, I really hope so. I think once they watch this video, they will come up with something simpler that we can use to get the dynamic data. But like I mentioned, you can always use the Sense AI to figure it out. So let me even just use Sense AI now to figure it out. Then, rather than wasting all our time, we can just use Sense AI to figure it out and say, I just want to show a list, a nested listing. So rather than a or let's see, dynamic data for the property get data. So we have the terms, the name Southeast, followed by Hampshire, and then Petersfield. But okay, we want it to be in a tree format. We want to be able to get it as a nested listing of ULLI of the array. Because right now it's just basically breaking it down as a breadcrumb. So this is Southeast, Hampshire, and Petersfield, basically grandparent, parent, and child. But we want it in a better format. That's all we need. So let's go back and just say I would like instead show a ULLI structure for the terms listing, terms query. A nested UL. Let's see what it comes up with. Because then I believe once I figure it out by tomorrow, a proper video should be out. This is just exploratory video, trying to figure everything out. By tomorrow, once I figure everything out properly, we'll have a more streamlined video, either tomorrow or Saturday, because I have to record the video tomorrow, edit it, and then by Saturday the actual video should be out. Once AI is able to figure this conundrum for me. If it doesn't figure it out, I will do some more research and figure it out myself. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you for joining in, Tim. We can watch out for the video on Saturday. it should be out once I figure everything out. And every other person else that stayed on watching me ramble, thank you all for joining in. And once we have this going, we'll test it out, and then a video explaining the code level of dynamic data should be out on Saturday. And by that time, I'm really hoping that the new update for Builderius should be out soon, so that we'll also do a video showing any of the new features that have been added in the new update before the stable release is added. But for now, yep, we keep waiting for the AI to come up with a solution. And yeah, let me just keep watching the tool do its work. Okay, Sense AI is still trying to figure out what I said, because sometimes this is one of the limitations, I think, with using AI. Sometimes we don't know the right terminology, so the AI has to first figure out what exactly your terminology means before it solves the problem. So that's why it's first trying to figure out, okay, what exactly did I say? Is it right? Then use that to, with its knowledge base, to figure out the actual solution. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I just had to do a nested terms query. That's where I forgot about, is the nested terms query. Let's go ahead and get data. And yep, we have it. So the name Southeast children terms. So all I had to just do was a nested terms query, and I forgot. I had the idea initially, but then I think my brain just short circuited and I forgot. But yeah, so that now we can come up with the video. So basically, we have the ancestors function, which returns the IDs of the ancestors of that term. Then it did another function called array reverse, which just basically flips the array. It flips the array because the ancestors, the way it is arranged is the IDs are, let me go ahead and remove this at private so that people can see what it actually shows. If I do get data, so what it does is that it lists the ancestors in order. So we're trying to now reverse the order so that we can get the parent before the grandparents before the parent. Right now it's showing you 17 is the parent of the current term, 16 is the grandparent of the current term. So with this function called the function called array reverse is now flipping it over. Then the other function it now uses is the array merge, which now basically merges the array back together. And yeah, it now came up with the actual function. So yeah, everything now is back to normal. So let me see the Sense AI. Has it finished? It's still testing it out to make sure everything is working. But yeah, now I understand what it is doing. So basically, we just had to do a nested terms query. That was all that was that's the last thing I was trying to figure out, that okay, now that we've gotten the ancestor IDs, what are we going to do with those ancestor IDs? All we have to just do is now feed those ancestor IDs into a terms query showing parents of those IDs, which you can see in the dynamic data. If you go under the children, you see it's a nested terms query, and the parent now becomes the ancestor ID. Basically, the parent becomes the ID of the ancestor. And that's it. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching me struggle and try to figure things out. Like I mentioned, you can expect a proper video on Saturday showing how all of these queries are working and how best to use them. So until next time, I'll make sure to prepare better for the next live stream so we don't go through all of these figuring things out in the next live stream. But until then, keep designing, keep happily designing, and I'll see you next time.